19th century political cartoonist Thomas Nast is often credited with coming up with the symbols for the two major American political parties. For the Republican Party, the elephant, and for the Democratic Party, the donkey. But the images of these two parties and their evolution has changed since their development in their modern form in the middle of the 19th century. And many of the candidates themselves have adapted the attitudes and the symbolism of the party for their own means. Beginning in the late 19th century, you begin to see the donkey and the elephant appear specifically with each party. And many of the items in the later part of this exhibit, on the 20th century in particular, include these identifying symbols. We have images from the election of Dwight D. Eisenhower over Adlai Stevenson, and both of these objects, they're disposable Dixie cups. Both of these objects have an elephant and a donkey on them. We also have a Republican cookie cutter in the shape of an elephant. But beyond these two-party symbols, you also see a changing way in which specific candidates are being marketed, if you will. And this is most or best represented in our exhibit by the number of items relating to President Theodore Roosevelt. Elected as the vice president during William McKinley's second term, he assumed office after William McKinley's assassination in Buffalo. And being seen as a war hero during the Spanish-American War, seen as a particularly rugged individual from an elite New York family with extensive roots in the area, he was seen as a figure who was the embodiment of a new American age. And so in many ways, he symbolized a rugged Republican Party. Images of him are on horseback or in military uniform, are in the outdoors. Being very physically active, very, very rugged and muscular, and articulating the vision for the party for that era, that it was a party that was willing to tangle with the trusts, that it was a party that was willing to advocate for the outdoors and the expansion of federal parks and federal lands. And you see this shift and the kind of representation of the party's values within the candidate in the images from President Herbert Hoover, who was seen as a very pro-business candidate when he ran in 1928, as continuing the line of the pro-business, pro-growth Republican Party of the 1920s. He was a self-educated millionaire. He was a mining executive. He spoke Mandarin. And he had spent time abroad living in China and Australia, was in the first graduating class at Stanford, and had a very robust bearing. He was seen as a particularly handsome candidate for his age and was then presented as such, but a pro-business individual, an individual who was advocating for less restrictions on the market, less government intervention in the economy, does not play well during the Depression. And so this image doesn't do well in 1932 with his election, re-election when he loses to Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So what we see is these candidates and the images of the party adhering to the times in which they are in, for good or bad, representing the challenges and the possibilities of their era, whether it is a robust, rugged Republican Party willing to take on big business in the turn of the century, or whether it's a pro-business Republican Party that is ill-prepared to deal with the scale and the dangers of the Great Depression of 1929 and going forward.